Hi everyone, welcome to today's tutorial. My name is Agnes in case you're new to the channel. Today we're going to be making this Halter dress. It's a ribbed dress. I used the front post, back post stitches. I put up a poll on my Instagram, which is Crochets, and most of you voted for this side, but if you can wear it both ways. The inside part of the dress is looks quite different. It looks like this other dress that already have a tutorial for, so you can check it out. This is how the inside looks like. You can also wear it on the outside, but according to you guys, I decided to go with this outer side ribbed looking look. I hope you like it. It has these buttons that go up to the back and the sides of the dress. I really like it, so I hope you do. We are going straight into the tutorial. So for this tutorial, I used Winter King. It's acrylic yarn 100%. Each ball is 50 grams. I used 7 of this. So I used 7 balls of this. You can use any medium weight yarn that you have, size 3 or size 4. I used a 3.0 millimeter hook for this tutorial, 3.0 millimeter hook, stitch marker, scissors, and you will need tape measure for bust measurements. All right, so we are going to start from the waistband going downwards and work the top later. So make a slip knot and you are going to make chains. This is right from the waistband. Make chains enough in that when you pull your chain, it is equal to your bust measurements. Bust measurements is what you take, okay? So I'm going to chain until I have my bust measurements. All right, so this is what I have. This is my chain. So when I measure this, it's about 24 inches, but I said stretch to your bust measurement. So my bust measurements are 30. When I stretch, it stretches to 30 inches. So bust measurements is 30 inches for this tutorial. So what we are going to do is straighten up the chain. Straighten up your chain, and we are going to join the two ends together. Join the two ends together using a slip stitch. We are going to go into the first chain and make a slip stitch to join these two together like that. So this is our waistband. So for row 1, we are going to chain 3. And for one, we're going to use double crochet. So in that very first stitch, into that very first chain, you are going to go ahead and make a double crochet, yarn over, go into your next chain, make a double crochet, go into your third chain, make your third double crochet, into the next chain, make another double crochet, and this is going to be the pattern for row 1. So for row 1, we are making 1 double crochet in every chain. Make 1 double crochet in every chain, and I'll meet you at the end of this row. All right, so I'm at the end of the row. And we are going to join this on top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch. So slip stitch on top of the chain 3. So you are going, this is our waistband now. You're going to chain 3 for our row 2, and we are going to work front post and back post for this row. So you see this first double crochet. We are going to work up front post in this. So go under it like this. Go under the first double crochet with your hook, just like this, and make your front post. So our next stitch is going to be a back post. So we are going to go into the next stitch from the back, okay? From the back and over it, like this, and make our back post. So this is our back post. Next stitch is going to be a front post. So just like the first stitch, go under it like that and make a front post. Next is a back post. This is how you do a back post. In case you're confused about this, there are so many tutorials on how to do this on YouTube. Just search how to make a front and back post stitches and you'll find something that is way slower to understand. But otherwise, if you've done this before, this is how you do it. For a front post, you go under it, and for a back post, you go, for a front post, a back post, you go over it from the back, just like this. All right, so you're going to repeat this stitch, front post, back post, front post, back post, alternating them, front post, back post, until you get to the end of this row. And I will meet you so that we can go about our third row. So I'm at the end of this second row and you're going to close this off with a slip stitch on top of that chain 3. Okay, so now we are going to third row. So you're going to chain 3 and it's going to be now a repetitive pattern. So where there is a front post, make a front post, and where you had a back post, make a back post. Okay, so where you had a front post, go ahead and make a front post, and where you had a back post, make a back post. So go over it like that for a back post, and the front post go under the previous front post like that. Go over the previous front post like that for the previous row, and you are going to basically repeat this pattern. So where there's a front post, make a front post, where there's a back post, make a back post, and this is our third row. So this is going to determine your waistband. Okay, I'll meet you once you're done. So I'm done. I have 3 rows, and this is how thick I want my waistband to be. So for now, this next row is now the below of our dress, the skirt part. So you're going to chain 3, and where we have a front post, make a front post. Okay, so our next stitch is also going to be a front post. So where you had a back post, please make a front post like this. So you're going under it from the front. Next is a front post. So this whole row is going to be a row of front posts. Okay, only front posts in every stitch. So where you had a back post, make a front post. Where you had a front post, make a front post. It is all front posts. Okay, so this is going to be our pattern. Make front posts in every stitch, and I'll meet you once you're done with this row. All right, so I'm done with my 4th row. You see, it's only front posts, and this is how it should look like. So you're going to close this off with a slip stitch on top of the chain 3. Okay, so for our next row, you're going to chain 3 and make a front post in that very first front post. Go into your next stitch, make a front post, and your next stitch is going to be a front post. So this whole dress pattern is front posts for the biggest part of it. So we are working from the waist going downwards, and we made a row of the waistband row of 3. Sorry, the waistband, we made 3 rows of front post and back post, but now from the waist to the bottom, we are making only front posts. So make front posts in every stitch like this. Okay, this is how it looks at the back. Okay, this is the front part, and I'll meet you once you have a total number of 5 rows. 5 rows. So I have my 5 rows of front posts, right? 5 rows of front posts like this. Okay, So I went ahead and put my stitch markers. So where I ended my rows, this is where I was beginning and ending my row. I put it on the side. Okay, put it on the side. So from that side, I divided it into two, my stitches into two, and put a stitch marker where the middle part is. So this is where on my right side. And then now that number of stitches, I went ahead and divided it again into two, and this comes to my middle stitches right here, okay, and at the back. So my middle stitches that you see at the back and the pink one at the front, this is where we're going to be making our increases to accommodate our hips. Okay, so you can take this off. And I will use this for this other stitch marker because I always lose them. I don't have enough. So where we have our stitch markers is where we will make our increases, okay? So what you're going to do now for the next row, our 6th row of front post, you're going to chain 3 and make a front post in that very first stitch, and then you're going to make front post. So this is our 6th row from when we started to do only front posts. So you're going to do front posts until you get to where you have your first stitch marker, okay? And I'll meet you there to show you how we do our increase, okay? So when you get to this first stitch marker, that's when we do our first increase. All right, so I'm where our first stitch marker is. So take off the stitch marker, and in this stitch, that's where we're going to do our increase. So we're going to put our first front post. On that same stitch, we'll put our second front post. And on that very same stitch, we'll put our third front post. So we've put 3 stitches on one. And this is how it looks. That's our first increase. And then go into the next stitch and make your front post. And into the next, a front post. So we made our first increase. This will be one on one hip side. So you're going to do one front post in every stitch, get to the other stitch marker, make an increase just like we did on this one, continue with one stitch in every stitch, and finish off your row. And when you're back here where we did our first increase, I'll meet you. All right, so I'm back to where we did our first increase. So this is our 7th row, and now I'm going to show you how to do the next increase. So in that very first stitch, make a front post, and in the middle stitch, this is where we'll keep doing our increase. So make one in that same stitch, make another front post. In that very same stitch, make your third front post. Okay, so we've made our increase, and now in the next stitch, you're going to just make one front post. So you're going to do this one front post in every stitch. Go to the other side where you have your stitch marker where you did an increase. Do the same thing. Do your second row of increase and finish off your row. Repeat the same pattern over and over again until I did 10 rows. But take your hips measurements, subtract 5 inches. What you have, that is what you should have when you stretch your skirt. Okay? So that I'll meet you once I have my 10 rows to show you what I mean. So keep increasing until you have your 10 rows. All right, so these are my 10 rows, as you can see. So if I turn this to the sides, you can see it increased like this. And this is the right side. So when I measure this from top, going along this hip line, I have about 8.2 inches, right? About 8.5 inches. Yeah, 8.5 inches if I measure along the hip line. So this is going to fit a size small. Okay, this is how it looks at the back. And this is the side that I will be using because, you know, I put a poll on Instagram and you people decided this was the better looking side. So this is what I will be using. But anyway, so how I came to this is after you've subtracted your 5 inches from your hips measurements, mine is 36, so when I subtract 5, I remain with 31 inches. So if I put my tape measure like this, if I put my tape measure like this, you see it's 15.5, so that big 15.5 on one side, the other side is 15.5, so that makes it 31. So this stretches to what I want, 36, okay? This is able to stretch to 36, so that's why I was subtracting the 5 inches. Okay, so now I have my 31 inches, and now I will stop increasing. These are 10 rows of increase that I made, so from now on there is no increasing, so I'll just work one single front post in every row until I get to the height of my skirt. One single front post in every chain, in every stitch, until I get to the length of my skirt. Okay, so you see how I came to the hips measurements, right? All right, so I didn't make any increases after that, so this is how it looks. The length of my skirt, this is how long I wanted it to be. Okay, so now we are going to work on the top part, the halter top part. Okay, so you are going to reattach your yarn. This is from where we started our chain, from where this is the part where we're starting and ending our rows. So I'm going to just reattach my yarn there and chain 3. That's 2, that's 3. So for here we're going to work front posts, so make a front post on top of that very front post, and into your second back post make a front post. So it's like what we did at the start of the skirt when we're going down, so it's going to be front posts. This is my 4th front post number 5, front post number 6, and for the 7th we will make a decrease. So you'll get this front post and this back post and make a front post in all the 2 to make a decrease. So this is our 7th, we made a decrease. So now you're going to count 6 front posts next. That's 1, that's 2, that is 3, 4, 5, and 6 front posts. So your 7th you will make a decrease. So you see these 2, just go under both 2 like that and make a front post. So you're going to repeat that pattern. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 front posts, then a decrease. I will meet you at the end. All right, so I'm at the end of the row and we've made our decrease. So we're going to close this off with a slip stitch on top of that chain 3. All right, so we are going to start on our decreasing row. More of now work the halter so that we are not going around, we are going from one side to the next side. So you're going to make a stitch marker. This is on the hip side, one hip side, and put a stitch marker on the other hip side. Okay, so and where we've started and ended our row, that is going to be the back of the dress. So now we'll be working from one side to another side, okay, instead of going round and round. So we'll make our first decrease. Since we are making a halter top, we'll make our first decrease. So you're going to chain 3, okay, so we'll make a decrease. So we are going to go into these first 2 stitches and make a decrease, and we are going to be making 2 decreases on every row and on every side, at the beginning and at the end. So go, instead of going into 1, go into 2, make your second decrease like that. Okay, make your second decrease on this beginning of the row, and then from now on you'll make one front post in every stitch until you get to the other side. When you have 4 stitches remaining, then we'll make another decrease. So for this first part, we're going to be making 2 decreases at the beginning and the end of the row until we get to where we have our stitch markers, and then we'll switch up the pattern. Okay, I'll meet you at the end on this side. Alright, so I'm at the end of the row. I have 4 stitches left, and now I'm going to make my decrease at the end of the row. So make a front post in between these 2 stitches, and then make my second front post decrease like that. Okay, so normally you would close off the row with a slip stitch, but we are not going to do that. So you're going to chain 3 instead, and then turn our work. So now we're going to start turning our work. So now let's chain 3. So this time we are going to change the pattern a bit because we want the lines to face the front. So instead of a front post, we'll make a back post, okay? So that we have our, ribbed part facing only one side. So you'll make a back post and make a decrease. Remember to make 2 decreases at the beginning of the row. So it is a back post, okay? It is a back post for this row. So make a back post. Next 2 stitches, make a decrease and make a back post. So since we are working from row to row, it's going to be, from row to row, but not going all around from one side to another side. So it's going to be kind of different. So one will be a row of back posts, another will be a row of front posts. So now we are working in back posts, because we want this ribbed part to be, on the wrong side and the other side correctly. So we are working back posts in every stitch. We made our first 2 decreases at the beginning of the row. Now it is back post in every stitch. Back post in every stitch. 1 back post in every stitch. And repeat these back posts. And I'll meet you once you have 4 stitches left at the end of the row, so that we can make our decrease. Okay, I'll meet you at the end. You see now it's correct. Our ribbed part is on one side. Yeah, so I'll meet you at the end. Alright, so I'm at the end. I have my 4 stitches left, and I'll make my decreases so that we have 2 front posts, so back posts, sorry. So it's make a back post with a decrease, and our last back post with a decrease. All right, so if you want more coverage, you will do only 1 back post, 1 decrease. So chain 3, turn your work. So instead of 2 decreases, you'll do only 1 decrease, but I want more, I want, not so much coverage on the side of the boob, so I'll make only 1. So now we are back to making front posts, okay? So for this decrease, we'll make a front post because we're working on the right side. So your next decrease will also be a front post. And now for every stitch, we'll make a front post. You see, we've made our 2 decreases. Now it is going to be a front post for every stitch. And this is basically going to be the pattern until you get to where you have your stitch markers, and then we'll change our decrease pattern. But for now, work like this. When I get to the end of the row, I'll make 2 decreases, chain 3, turn my work, and now work back posts. Make 2 decreases, back post, 2 decreases, and then go all the way back like that until I have where I have my these white stitch markers. That's my hip side. And then yeah, we will change our decrease pattern. Instead of decreasing 2, we'll be decreasing 1 from there. Okay, so do that. Remember to keep doing back post, next row, front post, back post, front post, like that. And I'll meet you once you are where you have your stitch markers. Okay, all right, so yeah, where I have my stitch markers. So from now on, our decreasing method is going to be different. Okay, so you see I ended this row with a front post, so it is a stitch already, right? So this is a stitch, right? So I'm going to chain 3 and then turn my work. So we're going to be decreasing 1 stitch in every row, but now that my previous row is already a stitch, okay, this is already a stitch, so this is a stitch, but the other one is a chain, right? So now I'm going to go into my next stitch and make a back post. So I've left out that very first stitch, so this is already a decrease. So I leave out this first stitch, go into the next stitch, make a back post. So by leaving out that very first stitch, I already made a decrease. So you're always at the beginning of the row, you're always going to go into your second stitch. Okay, that counts as a decrease. So now you're going to make back posts. Okay, for my row it is a back post. Your row could be maybe a front post. So I'm going to make back posts in every stitch until I get to the other side, so that I can make my decrease at the end of the row, and I'll show you how I will make that decrease. So I'll meet you at the end of the row. I hope you understood what I did right here. All right, so I'm left with 2 stitches and then a chain. The chain doesn't count as a stitch, so it's 2 stitches and I need to make a decrease. So I'm going to, make a back post in these 2 stitches left. So now I've made a decrease at the end. So you've seen what I've done at the end. So the beginning and the end of the row is different. Please note that the beginning and the end of the row is different, and I hope you've noted that. So I repeat again. So I chain 3, like my previous stitch, you see, was a stitch. So now I'm going to leave out that first stitch and go into my next stitch, and now I'll make a front post. Since I'm on the row of front posts, now I'll make a front post. So I've made a decrease at the beginning of the stitch. So I'll go ahead and make 1 front post in every stitch until I get to the end of the row. So it is 1 stitch in every 1 front post in every stitch until I have 2 stitches left on the other side. Do that, and I'll meet you to show you once again how I made that reduction. Okay, I'll meet you at the end of this row. At the end of the row, I have my 2 stitches left, and I'll make my decrease. So my chain, it doesn't count as a stitch, so I only have these 2 stitches left. Okay, chain 3 doesn't count, so I'll go ahead and make a front post under these 2 to make my final decrease. Okay, so I chain 3, turn my work, and now since my previous one was a front post, now I leave this 1 stitch, which is my last front post, and go into the next one and make a back post. So I still made a decrease there because I left out 1 stitch. Okay, so I'll make back posts in every stitch. Once I get to the end, when I have 2 stitches remaining, then I'll make a decrease. Okay, so I'll keep doing this, alternating this, making a decrease at the beginning and the end of the row. And I think I did this until I had 9 stitches from the waistband upwards. 9 inches, sorry, not stitches, 9 inches from where I started my waistband. All right, so this is what I have. Okay, this is what I have now. There's about 26 stitches left there. Okay, and this is a 9 inches, about 9 inches, yeah, about 9 inches from where I started, right? So we are now going to, change again our pattern up there, the decreasing part, okay? So for this part, it's going to be different. So chain 3, turn your work, and we are only going to be making a decrease at the beginning of the row. So when I leave out that stitch, that's my decrease. So go into your second stitch, make a decrease, make your stitch. This is going to be a back post for me. So it's a back post for me. So I've left out one stitch, so that is my decrease. I left out one stitch, that is my decrease. So I'm going to make one back post in every stitch until I get to the other side. I'll meet you at the end. All right, so I'm on the other side. I have one remaining, and I'll go ahead and not make a decrease. So I'm not making a decrease at the end of the row. I'm only making a decrease at the beginning of the row. And let me repeat this. So chain 3, turn your work. Now I leave out the first stitch and go into the second stitch and make my front post. So that is my decrease, okay? So by leaving out the first stitch, I make a decrease. So I just go into the second stitch, make a front post, third stitch, make a front post, all the way to the last stitch. When I get to the last stitch, I do not decrease at all. I only decrease at the front post. So this is going to be my last stitch there, okay? So do that. I did this until I had a total number of only 20 stitches left. So I'm done. I already did one boob side, but from waist upwards I have 11.5 inches long, and yeah, this is enough to go up to my neck before I put the neckline thing. I already did one side of my boob side, so I'll show you how to do the other side. So I did this starting from the top to bottom. Now I will do from bottom to top, from the back to the top, so that we have them facing one side, All right, so you're going to turn your work like this and start from the bottom going upwards. I'll make single crochets from the bottom going upwards, okay? And then if you're going to do the other side, then you'll do from the top going downwards, okay? So I'll just reattach my yarn. So I'll just show you how I did the other side, how it's two identical things. So reattach your yarn, and I'm going to put one single crochet. We're going to work a row of single crochets, so it's going to be 2 single crochets in every row, okay? So I'm putting one single crochet in the middle of the row and then another single crochet at the top of the row. So for this, that is in the chain 3 and then at the top of the chain 3. So it's 2 single crochets in every row. So in the middle of the chain 3 and then at the top of the chain 3. Okay, so my next one I think is a front post. So I put in the middle of the front post, then at the top of the front post. So in those stitches on the edge, make sure you have 2 single crochets in every row. 2 single crochets in every row. So this is a chain 3. So one in the middle of the chain 3 and one at the top of the chain 3. So I'm done with that row. Next row in the middle and at the top of that stitch. So you are going to do these 2 single crochets in every row up to the top, and I will meet you at the top so that we start on row 2 of the single crochets. So I'm at the top, and this is how it looks like. This is my side from the back to the top. And now you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and work a row of single crochets. So it's 1 single crochet in every stitch going downwards to where you started your row of single crochets. So it's 1 single crochet in every stitch from the top to the bottom where you started. And yeah, 1 single crochet in every stitch to the bottom. I will meet you once you are at the bottom. Once you get to the bottom, chain 1, turn your work, work single crochets, and I'll meet you once you have a total number of 4 rows of single crochets. 4 rows. Alright, so I have my 4 rows of single crochets. This is how it looks. If you want more coverage, go ahead and add more rows. And now we are going to work this button stitch. It's not called a button stitch, but I don't know its name, so I'll call it that. So chain 1, work backwards into your next stitch, and you are going to work 4 stitches like this. They're incomplete stitches. They are half double crochets that are incomplete like this. And then pull through all. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, skip your next stitch. We're working backwards, so skip 1 stitch into the next stitch and make like this. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull through, yarn over like that 4 times, then pull through all, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, go into the one after, and yarn over once, twice, 3 and 4. Then pull through all, chain 1, skip 1 stitch. We are working backwards into the next stitch, insert your hook, pull through like that. That's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. And then pull through all, chain 1, skip 1, and work this. It's more like a bubble stitch, I think. So it's 4 times, and then pull through all, chain 1, skip 1. So you're going to do this until you get to the top up here. Okay, so I'm at the top. This is how it looks like. Go ahead and do the other side, and once you have both sides, take this measurement. Mine is 6 inches. Measure around your neck area and know how many inches you have around your neck, so that we now make this next part. So this is 6 inches. So now I'm going to chain 3 inches on one side and 3 inches on the other side, so I have a total number of 12 inches just to go around my neck. Okay, so I'm going to make chains. I did about 15. So you keep measuring. I want 3 inches. Not yet there. Yeah, I have my 3 inches, so I'll cut off my yarn. So the same number of stitches I have here are the same number of stitches I'll do on the other side. Reattach my yarn on the other side and make the same number of stitches. So make the same number of stitches like you had on the other side. This should go around your neck, and we are now going to add 2 stitches, 1 and 2, then do row 1. So you're going to skip the first 2 stitches, those 2 stitches, and then into your third stitch make skip the first 2 stitches, skip the first 2 stitches, and into your third stitch make a double crochet. Go into your next stitch, make a double crochet, and into the next one make your third double crochet, and this is going to be a row of double crochets because for the neck area I opted to go for the front post and back post stitches. So do this until you get to this other side. So once you get to where you have single crochets, it's going to be a double crochet in every ridge, just like what I'm doing. This is where we had a part of single crochets, and once we get to this other part where we have our other pattern, then it is going to be a little bit different. So for this part, you are going to I'm going to work back posts. Since I want this facing in the front, I'm working on the wrong side, so I'll do back posts. If you're working on the front post side, then you'll do front posts. Okay. So once I get to the end of this part where I have my back posts, then I'll go ahead and do the single crochet part in every ridge, and then when I get to the chains, definitely I'll do the double crochet in every chain. And yeah, I'll see you at the end of this row. Alright, I'm done with this row, so we're going to chain 3 and we're going to work, turn your work, and we're going to work front post and back post. So my first stitch is going to be a front post. My next stitch is going to be a back post. So it's the same as what we did for the waist. Front post, back post, front post, back post, and you're going to repeat this pattern. Once you get to the end, chain 3, turn your work, and work front post, back post, like that. I did this until I had a total number of 4 rows. So do that, and I'll meet you once you are done. Okay. I finished my rows, and this is how it looks so far. So I went ahead and put these chains on both ends just so that you can tie them, you know, at the back of your neck. So I did 4 rows, and these strings will enable us to tie the back of our neck. So go ahead and add the strings, one at the top, one at the bottom on each side. So if you want, you can wear it like this if you want it to wear on this side, okay? But I want to wear it on the wrong side because I want that that pattern. It is more textured, and I want that pattern. So this is a waist. You can always put a waist string if you want a drawstring. So I turned it over. This is how it looks, okay, on the wrong side. And I love this texture, so I'll be wearing it on this side. So I need to add something, the buttons at the back, because, you know, this is how it looks at the back, and it's not, you know, that line is not that pretty. Okay, so I'm going to add the buttons like I did on the side of the boobs at the back, so that, you know, it has something going on to cover this part that doesn't really look nice. But if you don't want this, then go ahead and use the other side. All right, so I'm going to start from the bottom to the top. So I will reattach my yarn, and I'm going to work my first button. I think I'll just call them buttons. So I'll put 4 stitches like this, and then pull through all, chain 1. So it's going to be 1 button per row. So going to the next row in this chain thing, then make my second button, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, and go through all, chain 1, going to my next row and work my third button. It's 2, 3, 4, pull through all, chain 1, going to the next row. So I'm going to do this, put a button in every stitch, in every row, in this, I think it's a chain 3, in the chain 3, on every row until I get to the top. Okay, so if you don't want to go through all this trouble, you can just wear the dress on the other side, but this looks, more textured, and I think it looks prettier. So I'll just do the buttons. Okay, I'll do all the way from the bottom and go along this line until the top here at the back. Okay, all right, so I'm done, and this is how it looks. These are my buttons, all the way from down here to the back, connects with the other buttons, and this is how it looks. It really looks pretty, and looks prettier when Purity puts it on, because it looks prettier than this video, I swear to you. So I hope you like it. So go ahead, give it a thumbs up, share the video, subscribe to the channel. It's free. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next tutorial. So bye guys.